Normally when people are trying to deal with climate risk, when people are trying to think about adaptation interventions, the main focus is trying to look at the climate risk or the exposure that people are experiencing. So whether people are exposed to floods or to droughts or whatever it might be, that climate hazard. So when you're looking at adaptation from a much more systemic perspective, you understand vulnerabilities of people based on their socioeconomic status, their well-being, what their access is to services. And so transformative adaptation is really about trying to shift the focus from dealing with those climate risks to dealing with those systemic vulnerabilities and changing people's lives so that they are better able to cope with climate risks, essentially. So it essentially is adaptation that focuses on equality, justice. It's a very necessary thing for Southern African cities, I think. Africa is urbanizing at a very rapid rate, and there are a lot of challenges associated with that urbanization and the growth of cities. And then when climate intersects with that urbanization, it exacerbates those challenges that people are experiencing. So instead of trying to approach climate change adaptation sort of in a top-down way where you look at the climate risk that is happening on a city, you understand what people are experiencing in the city and how you can contribute to shifting the systemic vulnerabilities of communities. I'm working in Durban in South Africa with the eThekwini municipality and in Harare in Zimbabwe. We had our first learning lab in Durban, and a learning lab is essentially it's a facilitated event during which you bring together stakeholders and academics, practitioners, people working in NGOs to really unpack a problem and then start thinking about pathways to solutions. So within that first learning lab, there was a lot of discussion about how beneficial bringing different perspectives has been. In the beginning of the project, we didn't define the final outcome. I think that's very important in TD research, is that it's emergent. So the stakeholders know that we are there to offer a kind of critical perspective on how work is done. There's a lot of literature about what transformative adaptation is from a normative perspective, what it should be. But I think a lot of people at the local level are quite frustrated by really knowing what it means, what it is on the ground, transformative adaptation. So they are quite keen to have that critical academic perspective, but also with empirical data from the ground to see, okay, is our case transformative or not? And what messages can we take from what we've learned about this transformative case and spread it to other cities? But TD research in general it's taught me to be trying to be a more empathetic researcher and to try to bring an element of humility into the work that I do, because I've learned a lot about all the research that is produced that never really makes a difference in terms of the work the decisions that are made. So to take a little bit of a critical perspective on that and think about whether the research that we produce is useful and how it could be more useful in the future. And I think multiple perspectives is really useful to gain a holistic understanding of problems, but also decision makers are making decisions very quickly all the time. They're having to think on their feet. And I think being involved in a research project provides an avenue for, as I said, reflection, critical reflection. So academics have the space and the time to sit and think and theorize about the problems with which decision makers are faced, and then mirror that back to decision makers so that they can use that going forward in the work that they do as well.